Hey internet, it's October, and you know what that means? That's right, it's Danny Phantom month, the month where I make videos about Danny Phantom. Because I like talking about Danny Phantom. Today we're talking about why Danny Phantom is the best Spider-Man cartoon. But first...
He's a phantom.
That's better. Alright, now it's no secret that Danny Phantom is a cartoon that's basically just Spider-Man meets Ghostbusters. So let's start with some obvious comparisons. Spider-Man and Danny Phantom are both teenagers that struggle balancing the superhero life with having to go to high school and dealing with everyday teenage problems. They both got their powers from science experiments gone wrong. They both have a dynamic rogues gallery of villains that they fight. Danny even gets bullied by the football quarterback whose name is Dash, and he's exactly the same as Flash Thompson, and it's amazing. So I think it's fair to include Danny Phantom among the other Spider-Man cartoons because it's basically exactly the same. Right, so let's talk about my points for why it's the best. Number one, what makes Peter Parker great is how he's a regular guy that has to deal with everyday problems, and he doesn't fit in, he has problems getting girls, he's a nerd, he gets bullied, all of these things. Danny faces all of these problems every day. Every episode of Danny Phantom, at least in the first 2 seasons, is always focused on Danny having some kind of teenage problem that he has to deal with, and then a ghost will show up and he has to fight them, making whatever everyday problem all the more difficult to deal with. And there isn't really a Spider-Man cartoon that deals with this like that much. Most of the time in Spidey cartoons, he's just fighting bad guys the whole time, which is fine if you like that sort of thing, but that's not really what makes Spider-Man relatable. Danny Phantom gets this right. Number 2, Danny Phantom is the best at balancing single episode stories along with overarching character development. It's very comic book like the way that Danny has to fight a new villain every episode, and also how the characters and their relationships develop over the course of the series. First 2 seasons perfectly balance excellent character drama as well as giving us great standalone episodes. The show is even great at tying in Danny's everyday life with the problems he faces fighting ghosts. Like in one episode, Johnny 13's girlfriend possesses Paulina, the hot girl that Danny has a crush on. So then they start dating and stuff, and Danny thinks it's great, but then he finds out she's not in control of her body, and so he has to fight her, and it's awesome. It's so good. It also does a really good job with recurring villains too. Every time Skulker shows up, he's in a new context. Sometimes he has to team up with Danny in order to fight other villains. Vlad is constantly developing and challenging Danny and makes for a great foil for him. And Technus, who's this really fun technology-based ghost, and every time that he shows up, he's upgraded himself to a new version, so they have to come up with a new way to defeat him. It's these kind of details that help Danny Phantom stay fresh and always pushes its characters forwards. This show also has the best Dash, or Flash Thompson in Spider-Man's case. Dash he's just this real jerk who's always giving Danny a hard time, and it's amazing. It's so fun to watch. He's a really fun character, and they also go a step further in even developing him a little bit as a character as well, as we see in later episodes where he ends up helping Danny against certain threats. Flash is a really fun character, and they barely ever do anything with him. Danny Phantom should also give props for being one of Nickelodeon's first action cartoons. While technically there was a pilot episode of Avatar that aired slightly earlier than Danny Phantom, Phantom premiered its first season in 2004, and Avatar: The Last Airbender didn't premiere its first season until 2005. I like to think we wouldn't have got the masterpiece that is Avatar: The Last Airbender if Nickelodeon didn't already have a successful action show on its hands. Now I know what you're thinking. All of those points may be true for Danny Phantom, but there is without a doubt a Spider-Man show that does all of these things even better than Danny Phantom does. And you'd be correct. That show is, of course, Spectacular Spider-Man. Now this show is a fucking masterpiece. If you haven't seen it already, please check it out. And yes, it does handle all those things better than Danny Phantom, like balancing his school life with his superhero life, having great single episode stories as well as developing the overarching plots and characters, and it has the best Flash Thompson in fucking anything. This guy is just so fun to watch. I love him. I love him. The thing is, this show didn't come out until 2008, and Danny Phantom premiered in 2004. So as long as I can prove that this show draws inspiration from Danny Phantom, then I still think I have a win here. Now, there's many similarities, obviously, because it's Spider-Man and Danny Phantom, and they're basically the same thing. But there's a few that stand out. One, in Danny Phantom, he has his two friends that are his sidekicks. He's got his male friend and his female friend, and they make up like the main group of the series, and they help him out on. I'm gonna put this down. But they help Danny out. They're his friends, and they're there for him. They're called like the Nerd Squad or shit. I don't know. Fucking they get bullied by all the popular kids because they're like geeks. Spectacular Spider-Man does the same fucking thing with Gwen and Harry. Characters that Peter Parker didn't even meet until he was in college in the comics. And it's the exact same dynamic. It's the main guy with a male friend and a female friend. Guy with a male friend and a female friend who are sort of the unpopular kids at their school and get bullied by the football quarterback. Flash Thompson and Dash obviously both play a big role, but also the way that they did Liz in Spectacular Spider-Man is interesting because it's a little different from the comics. Yes, she's the hot girl that Peter has a crush on, and that's the same with Paulina from Danny Phantom. But also, in the comics, Liz Allen is just some blonde chick. But in Spectacular Spider-Man, they decided to make her Latino.
Spider-Man was created in the 60s, and 98% of the cast was Caucasian, and that's not New York in 2008, so we've changed the ethnicity of some of the characters very consciously.
Which wouldn't really be significant if it weren't for Paulina from Danny Phantom. Coincidence? No. So there you have it. Those are the reasons that Danny Phantom is the greatest Spider-Man show, because it influenced the actual greatest Spider-Man show. Thanks for watching, and tune in sometime later for another Danny Phantom video. Go Ghost. Go.